Advocacy Group Watercan Executive Manager Dr. Ferrial Adam joins us now for more. Dr. Adam, a good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us. I mean, it's been, to say it's been a frustrating few days for many Johannesburg residents, I really think is quite the understatement, right? And for many people really wanting to know about the timing. It is the festive season. The heat just being so unbearable, and for many it really isn't just about cooling down. It's also about being able to stay alive when it gets so hot, right? The need to stay absolutely hydrated. So can we deal with that issue? For those Joburg residents that say the timing is just awful, what do you say?
So good evening to you and to your viewers. Also, I'm speaking today with a water crisis committee hat on as well, which has also been very involved in monitoring the situation on the ground. So just to say that, we did, Watercan, Water Crisis Committee, we did have meetings with Rand Water. We actually went on site on Saturday to have a look at the situation. And we asked them that same question. Why now? And in their mind, they were saying that this is the ideal time in terms of people start leaving Johannesburg, businesses are closing, so there's a little bit less demand on the system. But also, no one could have predicted the heat wave we're having. To add to that, when we spoke to them, there's been a 3-phase maintenance process, and this was the last of the 3 phases. So yes, I think for all of us who have not had water, this is completely inconvenient. It's school holidays, it's the start of December, you want to relax, and it was not that. And added to that was the fact that before the maintenance even began, there were many parts of Johannesburg that are part of the commando system. That is the Hurst Hill Reservoir and then the reservoirs, Yeovil reservoirs, that did not have water for up to 10 days. So on the back of that, you can imagine people were very, very frustrated.
Yeah. Could there have been a better time? I mean, when they say, well, the pressure at the moment would have been lesser on the system because businesses are starting to close down. Could there have been a better time to have the maintenance upgrade?
So that's the difficulty, is that we're not against the maintenance, and we know it had to happen, but when can they do it? And I think that in their mind, they had to choose a date, and this was it. We're not happy, everyone's not happy with it, but we understand why this period was chosen. Yeah.
One of the things that we can't deny, though, is, and as you say, I don't think anyone can dispute that the maintenance does need to happen. And I'm keen to hear just, the extent of the maintenance that was done, how much it actually deals with the backlog of maintenance that we do have, and if we've scratched the surface here, or if we're going to be doing this for a few more times in the future.
So there's 2 systems. The one with the Rand water system, I think that they were saying that this is the main maintenance that they needed to do. So what happens here is that they can now, if they need to do any maintenance at the Eikenhof pump station, they can actually they can isolate certain of the pumps so that they can continue to pump water. Previously, that was not the case. If they needed to fix anything, they had to shut the whole system down and we would have no water. Now they can carry on with maintenance and we can get water. But the challenge is the Joburg water system. So that is fine, but with the Joburg water system, with our reservoirs, half of our reservoirs leaking, we haven't maintained our infrastructure, we haven't maintained our water pipelines, that what we're seeing is that we are not going to get out of the system we're in right now for like 3 to 5 years. We are going to have this kind of intermittent supply.
Yeah, and so then that's not very confidence boosting, and I don't think I was expecting anything different, to be quite honest, because we hear about the maintenance backlog constantly. But then the main question is going to be, well, we are getting into Christmas Day, New Year's Eve. People hold those days very dear to their hearts. Will they be able to take a bath, wash their clothes, and cook for those particular important days?
Absolutely. And we're very concerned because you must remember the last time we had the Rand water maintenance, you had there were quite a few areas that didn't have water for about 10 days. That was in March, I think. And so we are concerned about that because if you think about 10 days from now, you are getting into Christmas. What we've been told is that Rand Water together with Joburg did not allow many of the reservoirs to run completely down to zero so that they have something to work with. It's easier to then start filling and then start supplying water. We think that a lot of the systems will be fine, we've been told, by tomorrow or at least Wednesday. Many parts will start getting water tomorrow and then a lot more on Wednesday. The real challenge is the commando system, which is the last on the line to get water. So that we need to monitor. So people need to, as soon as we know that there's water in the Hurstville reservoirs, we will be putting that out onto the WhatsApps, etc. And people need to monitor so that we can make sure that if we need to call Joburg Water to come and do checks on whether there are airlocks or valves that haven't been opened, that they can do it quick enough so that we don't have 10 days of no water.
Yeah. The response to where there has not been water supply to some of the areas, and I named some of them earlier, Roodepoort, Randburg, and the list goes on, have we had enough water tankers coming out? You're already shaking your head, Dr. Adam.
No, we didn't have enough water tanks. We didn't have enough tanks, JoJo tanks that were put in places. The reality is that this shutdown was kind of impacted almost 60% of Johannesburg. That's a lot of people. So you are not going to ever have enough tanks or JoJo tanks that are going to be able to deal with that. They needed to be more regular. There wasn't enough of a timetable for where people can pick up. I mean, it got better over the second day, but there was a lot of confusion on the first day. I must say, the one thing that has been really good is just seeing people rallying together and helping and, bringing out tanks and bringing out water and sharing their kind of water supplies and getting water to people. That was really important for those that couldn't go and couldn't, whether they were, elderly or sick, and couldn't get water. There were people helping. So that's always important. And, Joburg Water was never going to be able to reach everybody.
Let's say that we didn't have this maintenance taking place, and hopefully this maybe patches up the issue that I'm about to bring up, Dr. Adam, and that is the water that we do lose, though, in the system, whether that be through leakages or even illegal connections, for instance. Talk to me about just how extensive that is and how an Eikenhof maintenance project perhaps does help that in any sort of way. But also I think there's the issue of how speedily we respond to when residents in Johannesburg do report, for instance, a burst pipe.
Right. So that then falls, when you talk about, Rand Water sells water to Joburg Water and the municipality. And it's in that handing over to the municipalities that the municipalities then, we know, are losing at least half of it. In the Joburg area, it's about, we're losing about 47%. And then it's about, I think it's the latest is about 30% is through leaks or less. And then you've got the non-billable water and the theft. So that's a significant amount of our water that is being lost. And if we didn't lose it, we would have quite a secure, people would be able to have enough water and there wouldn't be this intermittent supply. So it does impact directly. So you raise a good point, is that with the Rand water maintenance, it doesn't mean that we are going to be okay in Joburg and not have the intermittent supplies. Because we still have the challenges with our reservoirs that are leaking. As you know, Hurstville 2, you can only fill it to 40% of its capacity. And Hurstville 2 supplies a big chunk of Johannesburg. It's from Coronation, Westbury, Emmarentia, Greenside, Parktown, all of those areas then get fed by Hurstville. And that one only has 40% capacity. So there's no storage, nothing.
Sure. What do we do then about that problem? Because, I mean, if I'm a resident and I haven't had water for the past 4 days, and then you're telling me that at municipal level we're losing 47% of the water we do have when we do have it, that's infuriating.
It is, and it's a lot of wasteful expenditure, wasteful money, all of that, right? Wasteful water. So we've chatted to a few groups about what can be done better? How can it be done? We had a really long, very productive meeting with Joburg Water, and we're very thankful for them to give us that meeting. And the bottom line for us seemed as if they needed, they get a revenue. So from selling water, from the water services and sanitation services, they get about 13 billion rand. But all of that goes into City of Joburg. And then the City of Joburg uses that money to run the city. And they give Joburg Water 1.2 billion rand. Joburg Water is saying they need about 2.5 to 3 billion rand. So now we've actually produced a petition to say that we need to make sure that there's a budget allocation done in January to ensure that Joburg Water's budget is ring-fenced and it's increased so that it can focus on improving our infrastructure. There are plans, and Joburg Water has got this amazing strategy that they have, but to put it into place, they need money. So they have said that for Hurstville, they're looking at fixing it, but the tender will go out in March. And then, of course, by the time they fix it, it's another 6 months. So do we have, or even by the time we're only starting construction in 6 months, so you're thinking about another 18-month construction, it's another 2 years of this reservoir being almost non-functional.
Yeah, this is not the most encouraging conversation, I must tell you, Dr. Adam. But just as we wrap up, I think some timeframes for those residents that have been affected over the past few days. And we were told, of course, that this interruption would take place until today, the 16th of December. So the likelihood, after you have had these visits as well and seen some of the pump stations with this tour that you were able to have, the likelihood that tomorrow those taps will open. I mean, just talk to us about what the chances are here and recommendations. I'll give you your final thoughts. Yeah.
Chances are high because we know that the Rand water maintenance has been completed before schedule. They were only supposed to finish at 9 o'clock tonight. They finished before that, and they have started pumping water into the system that will reach the municipalities. So I think that on that side, there will be some areas that will have water, and it will be, incremental that people will get water along the line. But I think what I need to stress is it's very important, if I can please stress to people, I know you haven't had water for many days. We all haven't. We have buckets everywhere, all of that. Over the next week, until the system is stabilized, if people can just be mindful and not overuse. Try to still think we're in a constrained system and use it so that people in the commando system can actually get water and have water over Christmas. So that is something that we can do. I think the other thing is that we need the voices, the WhatsApp group, the Water Crisis Committee, the Water Forum, Watercan. If there are problems in any areas, let us know so that we can escalate the issues and make sure that those areas are checked.
Okay. Well, we really appreciate your time. Dr. Ferrial Adam, an absolute pleasure speaking to you. She is, of course, Executive Manager of Watercan, as we talk about that some of those water cuts that have been seen in parts of Johannesburg.